center of Georgia. This is 11 Alive News, 5:30.
Good evening. I'm Patricia Hunt, sitting in for Ellen Bryan.
Ellen is under the weather, is that right? Okay. I'm Dave Michaels. Well, we do have a weather situation, and we need a meteorologist to help straighten it out. So we go to the weather room and talk to Steve Brown and friends. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Dave. Yeah, Johnny and I are back here. We have all the latest we've been putting together over the last hour at a feverish pace, so to speak. I think the main thing is that we are not out of the woods yet. Sleet has lightened up in parts of the metro area, and a lot of people think that the storm is all over, but we still have another surge of heavy sleet to go through this evening. I'll let Johnny Beckman talk more about it. He has some Skyscan radars to show us, and you can see where that precipitation is coming from. Johnny?
Okay, Steve, we've been watching our own Weather Watch radar, and because of the heavy sleet that's occurring right here at the moment, our signal is being attenuated. The sleet sort of soaks up the radar beam as it goes out and sort of attenuates the signal. But we can use Hartsfield's National Weather Service radar to take a look at what is happening right now. And if you look very carefully at this presentation, you will see that there is a band of very heavy sleet just to the south of the metro Atlanta area. This has been moving up very rapidly during the past hour or two, and it is going to move over the metro area during the next hour and produce another batch of very heavy sleet. And if we check down at Columbus, we can see that there's still a big area of precipitation down to the southwest of us. You can see on this radar screen this area of heavy precip, which is sleet, comprised mainly of sleet and freezing rain that's going to be moving through the area. So we've got another big blast of it in the next hour or two, and then we're going to have some freezing rain for the rest of the evening after that, I think. Steve, what about it?
Yeah, I think that the sleet that's going to come in is going to be quite heavy, and the road conditions, which are right now getting quite bad, are going to get worse. One thing I want to mention is just of interest, but we just had a wind gust of 52 miles per hour at Hartsfield Airport. That's the strongest wind we've had there for 2 years. We've got another sequence. Just want to show you this satellite picture quickly. There's a little dry slot that developed across Georgia during the day today, and the sun actually broke out for just a spell in Atlanta. You can see that little dry slot there, but on the satellite loop, you'll see what happens. That dry slot came at us, but there's another batch of very heavy clouds just behind it, and that's what Johnny was just showing on the radar. Now, we are going to have more to talk about coming up a little bit later in this broadcast in about 10 minutes when we do our regular full weather report. We're going to put it all together, give you a forecast of what we expect is going to happen over the next couple of days. But the weather basically is going to get worse before it gets better. Dave?
That's what you call bad news. All right, Steve and John, thank you very, very much.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Pat.
Dave, the roads around Atlanta are slick, and Cassandra Clayton is standing by along Peachtree Street to tell us how conditions are now. Cassandra?
Patricia, you would not believe this is rush hour. Normally, just looking at the cars that are out here, traffic is very light as they are making their way, hopefully, home. The roads are passable, though, but it's slick. I'm trying to walk along the sideway here, and it's very slick. I'm not going to walk too far. So if you are driving, please understand that it is much worse driving. If you've got to go at all, go slowly. It's getting worse and worse out here, but we understand it's really bad north of the city, up along I-75 north, past Canton. There have been a number of accidents reported, and it's supposed to be very icy out there. Also around Calhoun, some 20 vehicles were involved in accidents this afternoon. We understand they have been cleared away, but some of those were pileups. Also in the northeast DeKalb area around I-285, Skycam tells us it's very icy and the streets are glazed over up there. Freezing rain is still falling. There's very little sanding going on. The crews are out sanding over the trouble icy spots, but so far there's no full-scale sanding of the streets. Bridges and overpasses, as always in this kind of weather, are especially dangerous. It's only going to get worse as nightfall hits, so we advise that if you've got to go someplace, get there now. Please drive carefully. And of course, your best bet is to just get home, get warm, and stay there. Patricia?
Cassandra, one question there. From what you can tell, are the motorists equipped with chains now?
A few people have chains, but it looks like most people are out here just sort of making their way very, very slowly and cautiously, which is the best thing to do with or without chains.
Okay, thank you so much, Cassandra.
I think I have the Battle of Chains coming up right after this news. Well, most of today's weather has been to the south of Atlanta. Skycam reporter pilot Bruce Arian flew over that area this morning as the storm moved in.
There are those that say weather is at best an inexact science. But from our vantage point up in Skycam this morning, we were treated to a unique view of just how exact the weather forecasting business has become.
We got a sequence here. Go back at about 3.5 hours ago. You can see most of the rain activity. This was freezing rain and sleet just south of Macon.
As our weather team pointed out the distinct line of advancing weather on radar, we were able to compare that line to the real thing, and the accuracy was remarkable. By 8:30 this morning, the storm had advanced to a point near Hogansville, about 50 miles southwest of Atlanta. We encountered just light snow showers at first, but the headlights in the northbound lanes of I-85 gave us some indication of what was to come. We checked the road conditions a little further south until the snow gave way to freezing rain. And at that point, which pilots like to call the point of no return, the rain started to freeze on our windshield, and we decided to head back toward the city of Atlanta. By 11 o'clock, the storm was crowding the boundaries of Hartsfield Airport, bringing with it reduced visibility and reports from airliners of low-level wind shear. The downtown area saw its first snowfall about 11:30 this morning, and while the traffic generally remained light, we spotted a number of state road crews pre-positioned and ready to go. Our aerial weather watch ended shortly after noontime with the visibility dropping and the winds gusting up to 40 miles an hour. Earlier in the day, those same gusty winds had pushed a DC-3 cargo airplane out of its chocks and into a ditch at Hartsfield, making it perhaps the first Atlanta casualty of Winter Storm 1983. Bruce Arian, 11 Alive News.
Thinking it was probably better to be well stocked than caught short, many people began buying up food as soon as supermarkets opened this morning. Scenes like this one at the Kroger store near Ainsley Mall were common. Some shoppers stood for more than an hour in checkout lines that stretched to the rear of the store. As was true during last year's snowstorm, fast-selling items included bread, dairy products such as milk, eggs, and alcoholic beverages. This store's manager said he has done a week's worth of business in the past 2 days. There's another segment of our society you will not find at the neighborhood grocery store. Atlanta's street people spent the day looking for a warm meal and a place to stay. As Joe Washington reports, some of these people have a very different view of today's winter storm.
Men who are down on their luck go to the Union Mission downtown. When the temperatures fall below freezing, the place is filled. It's not a pleasant place to be, but once in a while you find a good story like Harvey McFarland. They call him Pancake at the Mission. At 50, he's not as old as the elevator he runs, but he's been around here long enough to be called a fixture. Pancake is from Montreal. He became a resident at the Mission 10 years ago, and in that time he says he hasn't seen a bad winter.
What a half-inch snow? It's snow. That's nothing. Places where I have lived has been snow as high as 15, 20 foot deep.
What about the guys that come in here, though, to get shelter? They got to have a place to go. It's got to be pretty tough on them, huh?
Yeah, they come in here all drawed up and look like an icicle.
Pancake says this is a good place to live most of the time. He operates the elevator here 8 hours a day to pay for his room and board.
So I don't pay any rent. I don't pay for meals.
What do you do when you're not doing this?
Sleep.
Pancake's father gave him $15,000 for his birthday in 1958. He used the money to travel, and that's how he wound up here. He says he saw a lot of the world then, but he likes what he's doing now. Is there anything you'd rather be doing?
No, not much.
You're happy?
Oh, yeah. If I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have operated for 3.5 years. If I'm not satisfied with the kind of work I'm doing, I quit.
Joe Washington, 11 Alive News.
Oh, it probably goes without saying, but we'll say it anyway. Our cold weather can have ill effects on your health if you are not careful. Andrea Nissen is here with more on that. Andrea.
Well, Dave, what with the cold weather and wintry conditions, it's a good time to talk about keeping warm and the dangers of overexposure. Some tips from an expert.
Firstly, of course, stay out of the cold. Try to dress with layered clothing. Try to wear gloves, hat, 1 or 2 pair of socks or stockings. If I had to stress one thing, it would be layered clothing.
And the high cost of home heating fuel is keeping a lot of people keeping their temperatures down in their house, especially at night. And if you're cold in bed, here's an old-fashioned solution that really works. Wear a nightcap. The reason, up to 40% of your body heat is lost through the top of your head. And what are your worst habits? And what would your doctor like you to do about it? Here's a list reported in the New England Journal of Medicine. Stop smoking, lose weight, use a seatbelt, eat a balanced diet, know about drink alcohol moderately, cut down on salt, avoid foods high in saturated fat, eat breakfast, get 7 hours of sleep, get exercise a few times a week, drink coffee moderately, take daily vitamin supplements, and finally, have an annual physical exam. Now, you can't take issue with many of those. I bet you will, though.
I do all of that. I'm still a wreck. A nightcap to keep warm in bed, huh?
40% of your body heat will stay.
Not a bad idea. All right, thank you, Andrea.
Haven't seen it in a while, though. There's more to come on the 6 o'clock newscast, and Mary Rose is standing by in the newsroom now with details. Mary?
As you can imagine, the weather and how it's affecting everything and everybody is going to dominate our news tonight. Cassandra Clayton will report on road conditions, Ken McLeod on how the utilities are coping with the icy situation. Maynard Eaton follows the runway conditions at Hartsfield and the effect all this is having on airline travel. Neil Craig tells us there's a humorous side to all this mess, and we're going to let Neil explain that. And because most of us do get about in cars, John Pruitt will provide us with some driving tips that could save us all from a bad accident, all coming up at 6.
Thank you so much, Mary.
All right, talking about driving tips, Steve Brown is ready to talk a little bit more about the weather.
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk more about it after we come back. But we'll have the latest on what we expect tonight and tomorrow. Are conditions going to improve? Will the temperatures rise, or are we in for more rough weather? We'll talk about it when we get back. Had a wind gust at Hartsfield, the strongest one here in many a year, 52 miles per hour. And we'll have to check the record books on that. We have 26 degrees, well below freezing. Anything that's on the ground is going to stay there right through tomorrow with temperatures below freezing. The wind chill factor, when you consider the strong winds, is down to 11 below. Our low is our current temperature, 26. We made it up to 33 this afternoon, just a little bit above the freezing mark. Here's what's going on across the southeast at the moment. We have a freezing line that runs way down to our south, just north of Savannah. They have 33, but just north of Savannah it is freezing. That freezing line runs right back to Columbus and then curls northward of Birmingham. Anywhere north of that line is below freezing and well below here in Atlanta with 26. Our temperatures will stay below freezing tonight. We'll probably bottom out right here in the mid-20s. We might drop another degree or two, and they just won't rise a whole lot tomorrow. We think maybe 32 at the best. Now, we have a lot of heavy precipitation to our southwest, and I want to go to a satellite picture to show you what's going on. A lot of concern because the sun started to break out just about an hour ago. There's a little dry slot that came up with a big storm out of the Gulf of Mexico. You can see that slot of dry air here, but there are some heavy clouds developing just to our southwest now, and it's just about ready to move into the Atlanta area. So we're going to get another shot of very heavy sleet, and it will develop in the next hour and probably continue through early tonight. I'll show you the sequence of this monster Gulf storm. We're calling it a gorilla from the Gulf. It almost looks like a hurricane. It's absolutely amazing, but you can see the second band of precipitation develop here. It starts in the dry slot, but here it is moving up into Atlanta. Now, Johnny Beckman is back in the Weather Watch office right now. He has some radar updates to show us, and Johnny, I'm looking forward to seeing them as much as anyone else is.
Steve, when that little dry tongue of air sneaked in behind that storm system shortly after noontime today, the snow just sort of tapered off, and I think everybody may have been lulled into a false sense of security because a lot of people said, well, that's about it for the storm system, but the main storm system is still with us, and radar will show that to you right now. If we take a look at our Skyscan radar, we're going to take a look at the current radar from Hartsfield Airport. And you can see, if you'll notice this band of green just to the south of the city, that's a band of heavy sleet that's moving up across our area fairly rapidly. Let's take a little closer look at it. We'll zoom in on it so you can get a good view of it. And this is what's going to give us a blast of sleet and freezing rain over the next couple of hours. Now, behind this system, there's still some precipitation back into Alabama. That's going to move through later on tonight. I think this will be the heaviest activity moving through right now and moving through fairly rapidly. And then we're going to settle down to just plain old light freezing rain for the rest of tonight. We hope it will remain on the light side, too. And if it does, we'll be in pretty good shape as far as ice storm conditions are concerned. And we're going to be keeping a close eye on that. Steve?
Yeah, I think our major concern is if it does change to freezing rain, then we get the buildup on the power lines. But if it stays sleet, it bounces off the power lines, and we don't have the tremendous problems in that direction.
Anybody watching us ought to stay sitting there watching us tonight, though. There's no question about that. The streets and roads are just extremely hazardous in most sections.
Okay, good advice. I guarantee we'll have the latest and the best right here.
And you and I are going to stay right here.
I'm not going anywhere.
I'm not going
anywhere. We're stuck. They got us frozen to the wall here. Let's take a look at the wind flow map. Thank you, Johnny. Here's the storm system, and look at the wind flow lines packed in around it. They don't get much more intense, even way up in New England. This is almost like a nor'easter you would experience up in the New York City, Boston area. It's right now over Mobile, Alabama, and it still is quite intense. Now, that is going to bring us the shot of heavy precipitation tonight. There's another storm back here in West Texas. We're slightly concerned that may bring us freezing rain, another shot of it tomorrow night. But we'll worry about the next 24 hours. Here's the way we break it down. It'll be very windy with sleet, heavy at times. As we were just showing you, the heavy sleet band is just about upon us. Temperatures will drop to about 24 and hold there tonight. And the winds are gusting over 50 miles per hour right out of the east. Now tomorrow we expect the precipitation will be much lighter. It'll just be kind of light freezing rain and drizzle. If that works out, we may escape without all the big power problems here. Just messy travel, and it is going to be getting worse the next few hours.
Everything you guys said came true.
Yeah, pretty much, except it didn't start quite at 9. It held off a little bit. A lot of it evaporated, but we're pretty happy.
You're doing a good job, Steve. Thank you.
Really. Coming up next, Jim Huber will be here with the story of Mercury Morris. The former football star was slapped with a very long jail sentence today.
Looks like we've got another moderate to heavy band of what appears now to be freezing rain and sleet moving in from the southwest, and we'll show you that on radar in just a moment. It looks like we may have gone out of that frying pan and into the fire, considering what we're seeing happening in the last 30 minutes to an hour. A little bit ago, we had a lot of snow over the area and moving in waves as we showed you through the afternoon. Temperatures are ranging from 24 degrees north of Atlanta to 28 south. They will not warm up tonight. Whatever falls is going to continue to freeze and stick. Let's take a look at the Georgia map here briefly, and we see that rain and freezing rain developing south of Atlanta from Macon to Columbus to just south of the city of Atlanta. Snow and sleet across Atlanta to Athens, snow north of us, and it looks like now we're in that transition period from snow to sleet and freezing rain, and that could be even a worse problem than we face at the present time. Let's go ahead and take a look at our current conditions, and Sharon Summers, that was no fluke. Your strong winds are actually gusting over 50 miles an hour at the airport. Looking at current conditions now at 5 o'clock in the Atlanta area, temperature falling to 26. The high only reached 33. 26 is the low. 74 the record high. 8 the record low on this date. There's sleet falling at the airport now. An inch of snow fell officially. Humidity at 78%. Look at these winds. Easterly up to 52 miles an hour in gusts this last hour. The barometer falling is now looks like some drier or some moisture, warm air coming in. Sunrise tomorrow and sunset, as you can see. Okay, let's go ahead into the radar. You can see the shot behind me, and the radar shows that strong band we showed you just moments ago well south of us, now moving rapidly towards Atlanta. We think it contains moderate freezing rain and sleet. We're noticing one significant change now, and I want to describe to you how that occurs in the atmosphere. What's happening now, temperatures are cold at the surface, and they're real cold way up there, but here about 5,000 to 10,000 feet above ground, we're getting some air in from the east and southeast that is above freezing. Liquid rain is forming, and it's falling out. Some of it's freezing as sleet. The other is falling simply as freezing rain. That is an ice storm potential. Okay, let's go into the forecast center now, where Glenn is going to talk to us about another problem that we're facing now that we're getting late in the evening. Glenn?
Yeah. Okay, aside from the fact that we've got sleet and freezing rain beginning to form, the other thing that's going to happen in just a few minutes, the sun is setting, and the sun is what saved us from getting the problems during the day today, even though the temperatures got below freezing. As we mentioned yesterday, that even with 28 degrees, the sun's rays kept that snow from icing when it hit the streets. Now, without the sun's rays, the streets are going to cool off, and the water is going to become ice all over.
I think we've got a cold base now with the snow. We're going to put sleet or freezing rain on top of that. Everything's going to freeze. We've got to see how much we're going to get, if we're going to have any trees or power line damage, and that's what we're going to be watching this evening.
We're still not sure how severe this is going to be tonight and tomorrow, but it is going to be getting worse.
We'll be watching it. Pam and Forrest?
Okay, thank you, Ken. You make a very good point. Things are going to be changing, and so we're going to be tracking it for you throughout the program, all the way till 7 o'clock, and then all the way through the evening. As things change here in Atlanta, we're going to help you know what's happening.
Action News with Wes Sargenson, Monica Kaufman, Russ Minshew with the weather, and sports with John Buren.
The rush hour was at noon. The exodus from Atlanta complete 2 hours later. A reluctant Mayor Young made sure that 1983 would be remembered for being better safe than sorry. And the new governor, Joe Frank Harris, saying we learned from the mistakes of last year's snowstorm. Let the state employees go home and put the National Guard and State Patrol on alert. And so, with salt trucks parked on the shoulder of the road waiting, with shopping centers looking like a national holiday had been declared, with office parking lots abandoned and empty, 1983's winter storm moved in, glazed the roads, whitened the rooftops, and in general, shut down metropolitan Atlanta.
So this time, the storm did not catch us by surprise. People are safe and at home wondering what tomorrow will bring. Russ Minshew is in the Weather Center now to update us. Russ?
Monica, to begin, it appears as though we have a wide variety of possibilities, not over just the next 12 hours, but perhaps all the way through the latter part of the weekend, and we'll talk in detail about that later in Action News. But let's go back just a little bit and begin with cold Arctic air, which moved down at the beginning of the week, is now centered over the eastern Great Lakes, and a very important point to make, it is stuck there. It is very strong and very cold, and we've been receiving a steady flow of it from the northeast for the past 24 hours. Now, we expected the development of one storm center in the Gulf. That has happened over the past 24 hours, but very, very crucial to what has been happening and what perhaps will happen, that high pressure has tended to hold the low pressure well to the south. It's had a difficult time moving up into the southeast. At this point, it is located near New Orleans, Louisiana. Of course, the precipitation shield did spread up very close to the timing that we expected here at Weather Center. It moved into the Atlanta area about 10 o'clock. Through the metro area, center of it about noon today, and we have very substantial glazing problems over most of the northern two-thirds of the state, as well as back into Alabama, up into Tennessee, and over into the Carolinas. And we think this will happen. This western storm will weaken tonight as it drifts to the east, and a new storm, could be a big one, moving up the east coast, will form sometime later tonight and tomorrow morning on the east coast. As this happens, pulses of moisture will be coming up overnight. It is happening now. You'll see it on radar in a moment, and it will continue to add, perhaps significantly, to the glazing of ice that is occurring and perhaps some accumulation of snow. So we're certainly not out of the woods at all, and now the possibility is that our temperatures will stay at or below freezing well after tomorrow morning, and then a second storm comes into the picture. We may have more freezing problems tomorrow night as well. Freezing rain, sleet, and snow. You've heard a lot about those different types of freezing precipitation. Dan Atkinson is outside White Columns to talk about that now.
And Russ, of course, we have had snow and sleet mainly during the afternoon. Most folks know what snow is, but perhaps the crucial distinction to make tonight is the difference between sleet and freezing rain. We are beginning to get freezing rain now in the metro Atlanta area. First of all, sleet is rain which falls through a cold layer and freezes on its way to the ground. It tends to bounce when it hits the ground, and the good thing about sleet is it doesn't tend to stick and accumulate on power lines and tree limbs. Freezing rain, on the other hand, is rain which remains liquid until the moment of impact, and then as it strikes power lines, trees, road surfaces, whatever, then it freezes into an icy glaze. The freezing rain then can accumulate a layer of ice and bring down power lines and limbs and make roadways very icy. In fact, it's getting icy out here now. Municipal crews have already begun spreading sand in this area. Back to you, Russ.
And Dan, as we say, we do expect more precipitation over the nighttime hours, and we'll take a look at some of it moving into the Atlanta area on live color action radar in just a few moments. Wes?
Thank you, Russ. Authorities were prepared with a plan this time, a plan to avoid what happened during Snow Jam 82, when thousands of motorists had to abandon their cars on the slick streets. How did that plan work? Don McClellan and Vic Carter are standing by live to tell us.
Wes, I must tell you first that wind is blowing us almost off this very slick sidewalk now. And if you look behind us, you see the streets. Normally this time of day, they've got a lot of vehicles on them, but right now there are not many people here.
Of course, that's right, Don, and it is slick out here. And the reason there aren't very many cars out here is because earlier today, well before the storm even began, there was a mass exodus of employees who work here in downtown Atlanta.
And that may have been because of a plan that was developed after last year's disaster.
The Communications Center of the Atlanta Fulton County Emergency Management Agency. In the early hours today, only one person on duty. He was listening to ham operators, a network of hams set up after Snow Jam 82 to track storms as they move toward the Atlanta area. Shortly after 11 a.m., Emergency Management Director Bill Smith invited reporters into his office for this.
The mayor has accepted our recommendations that the private business initiate a closing at beginning at 1 p.m.
A couple of hours later, the mayor's tone indicated he had reluctantly accepted the Emergency Management Agency's recommendation.
Seemingly have over-prepared. And now we're waiting to see what happens as far as the weather's concerned.
The mayor didn't have long to wait. Just a few minutes later, he came out on the steps of City Hall to talk with me again.
Until about 5 minutes ago, it looked like we might have overreacted. But now in the last 5 minutes, we finally see these storm flurries coming up, and the wind has clearly picked up in the last 5 minutes, so it may be that they were right.
The mayor scampered back in out of the weather, leaving what appeared to be an already snow-covered City Hall steps. But it wasn't snow yet. It was sand and salt spread earlier for the skeleton crew that remained to keep City Hall open. The State Department of Transportation has the responsibility for keeping sand and salt on the expressways and other main arteries. Loaded trucks standing by at strategic locations. Local governments did the same with surface streets. How did the people react? Vic Carter's going to tell us about that.
The National Weather Service has now issued a winter storm warning. This is a warning now for north and central Georgia.
By mid-morning, every downtown employee was wondering when or if they should go home. Although some businesses told employees not to come to work, MARTA employees were here in full force. Some were routing customers to the right buses and trains.
Your ride at 3 downtown to Peachtree and Marietta Street there at 5 points.
Others were watching weather developments out the window, and on the streets downtown, people were crowding into buses, cabs, and others were just trying to figure out how to get home.
Where are you going?
Employees here at Rich's department store left after Mayor Young and the Fulton Emergency Management team suggested that employees be let go at intervals. And even amid the panic and the mass exodus from downtown, there were some people who just weren't afraid.
I'm from New Jersey, and this sort of thing just doesn't frighten me as much as it does some others.
No, I'm fine. I'm not being worried.
And while the howling wind kept blowing the door to this restaurant open, the owner inside was preparing to make the best of the situation. He planned to cater to those people who don't plan to leave downtown.
But someone's going to be staying downtown a little too late, and we plan on staying open for them.
As for tomorrow, and most employers are just waiting to see how bad road conditions are going to be. So the best thing to do right now is to stay tuned to television and radio reports. There may be some announcement about your business, your place of business closing. If not, just call your employer in the morning. It's about the best thing you can do. Don?
He keeps getting blown into me, and the man behind the camera, he's about to get blown away. We're going to give it right back to you, Wes and Monica.
Thank you very much, you too. Well, if you absolutely must go somewhere this evening, you might consider using MARTA instead of driving your car. MARTA says the buses and rails are all running on schedule, and the drivers are prepared to handle bad road conditions. Officials say the new buses don't even need chains to get around in the snow. And unlike last year, the General Assembly has decided to adjourn for the duration of the storm. But both the House and Senate held a very short session this morning.
And Sharon, you do look cold.
Well, Forrest, I have good news for you. Since I talked to you last, I have put on another layer of clothes, and I've got some more to go. So if we stay out here much longer, I may grow a little bit. I've also noticed something else. It's some little crystals of ice forming on the microphone here, if that helps you know anything about how it feels out here. We're on Cobb Parkway. I can look over to my right and see Cumberland Mall, and it is awfully quiet here tonight. Cumberland Mall in Cobb County was closed today, and the parking lot empty, except for a few fun-loving motorists who were enjoying themselves and practicing their snow driving techniques. Highway 41, Cobb Parkway in Cobb County, is usually very busy with cars all the time, but it was quiet this afternoon. The Perimeter Shell Station at Highway 41 and Interstate 285 is a 24-hour station. Jimmy Dobbins told me they would try to stay open as long as the weather doesn't get too bad.
Hopefully, we're going to try to stay open 24 hours.
Okay, I notice you've got a wrecker out there. Are you expecting it to be fairly busy?
We've got our chains and, ready for it to roll if we need to.
Have you been pretty busy today?
We wore this morning up till around 1 o'clock, and then I think everybody finally got there. I think we got half the cars in Cobb County filled up with gas and got them out.
Okay. Do you have any requests for chains or anything?
We've sold 2 or 3 sets today, and then got 2 customers waiting right now to get them put on.
On the square in Marietta, a few school children were out playing in the snow. Marietta schools were closed today. Cobb school kids had 2 days off anyway for teachers' work days. Dunaway Drugs was planning to stay open tonight until around dark.
It's been extremely busy this morning. There's no one here now, but we have lots of deliveries going out.
Yeah. What? You make deliveries too, so people are calling in for their prescriptions and things? Prescriptions,
candles, kerosene lantern, fuel, ice scrapers.
The usual snowy things. And as you can see, there are just a very few cars behind me, and they're slipping and sliding around. If you're at home, why don't you just stay there?
Yeah, it's really worth pointing out again, isn't it, Sharon, that if you get out there and drive, it's going to be very easy to start playing bumper cars.
Well, that's true, Forrest. It looks like the streets may be clear, but they're icy.
All right, try and stay warm till we talk to you again.
See you in a few
Sharon.
minutes.
Okay, and on the northeast side of the metro area, things were beginning to ice up early afternoon. TV5's Russ Jameson says folks are trying to stay out of the cold there.
The combination of high winds, cold temperatures, and slick streets was just too much for many people in Gwinnett County today. Streets and parking lots were sparsely populated, and by 3 o'clock, even the flattest spots were treacherous. Gwinnett County Police had already begun sanding some areas by early afternoon.
There's streaks of ice in various areas, especially over the bridges. We've had
Two particular areas, too.
Yes, especially on Sparling Drive off Holcomb Bridge Road, the Jimmy Carter Boulevard area. Most of it has ice slicks.
One of the few types of businesses with any customers today here in Gwinnett County were grocery stores. The manager of this grocery store up near I-85 says he's done triple the amount of business he would normally do on any Thursday. This manager says his suppliers are still delivering, but he's already run low on milk, bread, and canned goods. The people remember getting caught short last year.
Yes, we did. Got caught real short and didn't have a chance to get out and get anything and had to suffer.
You're not going to suffer this time?
No, not this year. We can live on chips until they run out, and then we'll make the best of it.
Gwinnett County officials are warning folks to stay inside tonight and wait this storm out. In Gwinnett County, Russ Jameson, TV5 Eyewitness News.
Well, now let's see how things are doing south of the city. TV5's Richard Belcher has been in the Jonesboro and Forest Park area for much of the afternoon. He says, in fact, that folks are moving pretty quickly there to get ready for this bad weather.
It was mid-morning when the first hints of the coming storm drifted down on the Peachtree City area of Fayette County. Unlike last winter's disaster, this storm caught no one by surprise. The South Metro counties that caught the leading edge of the storm had a pretty decent accumulation of snow by mid-afternoon. Here in Fayetteville, things had just about ground to a halt. Jonesboro and surrounding Clayton County were also going at half speed, well ahead of the arrival of the brunt of the storm. This woman was getting ready for the icy roads.
I would help you, but I'm not very good with them either.
That's okay. I read the instructions.
Everybody in Jonesboro is going home, or getting gasoline and kerosene and going home, or getting food, and you're in here washing clothes.
Right, because I'm a Yankee.
Bad weather, of course, means good business for some folks, and that was certainly true in Jonesboro today.
Tell me this, how's your ice cream business today?
I don't know about ice cream. I just deliver milk. And it might be ice milk before it's over with.
I've had more business this morning than I've had in 2 weeks. Is that right?
Well,
been real busy. Selling what?
chainsaws, chains, split maul handles, you know, fire cutting equipment.
However, good business was not the order of the day for this used car dealer.
Oh, you're not staying open, are you? Why not? You think you're going to sell anything in this weather?
No way.
Well, what are you staying open for?
I don't know. Fix up some of the things that happened last night.
Yeah?
Fence fell down, flags fell down. It's nice.
Can you show me something with a heater?
Yeah, right inside.
And some people knew how to mix a warm heart with smart business. Where's my free coffee?
But can you spell snow?
Do I have to?
That's what the sign says.
Can't see the sign from here. How about S-N-O?
That's close. That's close. How about a half a cup for that?
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, we're live at Hartsfield Airport right now, and you can see what was falling on the ground. If you couldn't see it, I'll tell you. I'll warn you. Coming from the south, coming right towards you, looks to me like freezing rain. I'll leave that to the weather experts, but it looks really nasty here. You can see the precipitation and the lights over the parking lot. It has gotten considerably worse in the last hour or two that I've been here. As for the airport, 30 to 60-minute delays at least on all flights. They tell me they got plenty of food here if you like hot dogs. Get yourself a paperback, sit down, it may be a little bit longer. Back to y'all.
Richard, we've had a conference. You get all the free coffee you can drink back here at home. You don't have to spell anything.
Okay.
Thank you, Richard. We'll see you later. Still ahead on Eyewitness News, Georgia power crews are working hard to keep Atlanta's electricity flowing.
Of course, we're going to keep you updated on all the latest closings, and we'll tell you where this changing weather is going.
is freezing rain out here now, and airline officials and airline representatives are meeting to come up with contingency plans for later on. And in the midst of what Dan Atkinson and Glenn Burns and Russ Minshew has been saying, I can tell you that they are a little bit concerned. Wes, Monica?
Thank you very much, Mark. Go get dry. His microphone has already started icing up. We'll have more reports on today's winter storm later on Action News, but next John Buren shows us some rather unusual sporting events from around the world.
If you're sliding right, turn your steering wheel to the right.
But not all the way, just lightly.
Of course, the best idea is to avoid skids entirely by reducing speed, making no sudden stops, starts, or turns, and simply being alert.
And the best advice is simply to stay off the roads until it all melts.
I wish I'd seen your report earlier. I could have used those tips. Thank you, John. It's a medical fact that doctors encourage pregnant women to enjoy athletics. But hockey? Jim Huber has a little bundle of sporting joy coming up.
Future. But for tonight, a low temperature in the mid-20s. Tomorrow, if we're lucky, a high temperature well into the afternoon in the mid-30s. It will be overcast. We will have batches or pockets of freezing.
For about 20 minutes. Now, a Georgia Power crew is on the scene. They say that most of the power has been restored. Apparently, it was just knocked out to most of these businesses in the area and perhaps a few residences down Far Road. But right now,